Okay, let's continue on with Gramática en página 460. So we're going to look at the Gramática on página 460. For this Gramática, it's really, really important that you really pay attention to these two verbs, saber and conocer. Why is it very important that you pay attention to these verbs? Because this verb in English is to know, but in Spanish, it means you use it in two different ways. And I'll explain it to you in this video, what I mean by that. So first let's read. Sé and sabes come from the verb saber. See right here, sé is just conjugated from the root saber, from the verb saber. So sé and sabes come from the verb saber, to know. There is another verb in Spanish that also means to know. And see, usually in Spanish, I've told you that, for example, one word can mean one thing, and another word means a completely different thing, right? But in Spanish, these both mean to know, but in different ways. So there is another verb in Spanish that also means to know, conocer. Use conocer to talk about people, places, and things that you're familiar with. And this is the key word right here, that you're familiar with. So you're going to use conocer with things that you're familiar with. I'll explain it more. Here are the present tense forms of saber and conocer. Except for the yo forms. They are regular in the present tense. Okay, so in the yo form is when they're irregular. Conocer is followed by the personal a when the direct object is the person. Direct object pronouns can also be used with conocer. And here we see one, right here. ¿Conocen ustedes a la señora que trabaja en el laboratorio? And then they answer, sí, la conocemos bien. ¿Quieres conocerla? So what do they ask here? And remember, they're using conocer, which means to know, but you're familiar with whatever you know it is that you know. So do you all know the lady that works, or the woman that works at the laboratory? Now, are you familiar with her? That's what they're asking. Are you familiar with her? Have you talked with her? Have you had coffee with her? Do you see her? Are you friends with her? Do you know her? Are you familiar with her? And they answer, sí, la conocemos bien. Yes, we know her well. Do you want to know her? Okay, so what I did was write down right here. I wrote down a little, well, it's not a graph, just I wrote down and kind of separated saber and conocer for you, and I'm going to explain it a little further. When to use saber, which saber means to know, and conocer also means to know, but when do you use saber and when do you use conocer? When do I know when to use these? Well, I already gave you a hint, or the book gave you a hint, to use conocer with things that are familiar, you're familiar with, right? So when do you know to use saber? You use saber to talk about facts, skills, knowledge, and you use conocer to talk about people that you're familiar with or acquainted with, or places that you're acquainted with or familiar with. So here's one example. Oops, sorry. Here's one example. Yo sé cuál es la capital de Colombia. So right here they're using this type, right? This word right here, saber. I know what the capital of Colombia is. So right here, how do we know in English, if you were to say in English, I know what the capital of Colombia is, how would you know which one of these to plug in Spanish? Well, because it's a fact, it's knowledge that you know, and in a fact, it's also a fact that you have the knowledge of where, because you've seen it in a map, you studied it in geography class, so you know where the capital of Colombia is. Okay, what if they were to say in English, I know Bogota? Well, right here they're using conozco because this person has actually been to Bogota and they're familiar with Bogota. They walked in the streets, they went to the plaza, they ate at restaurants there, they visited museums. So, yo conozco Bogota. I know Bogota. They're familiar with that place. Let's give another example here. Let's look at another one. Yo sé quién es Trump. So in English, I know who Trump is. Well, right here, it's just basic knowledge. I know who Trump is because I know who my president is because I've seen him on TV. It's knowledge, right? It's a fact that I know. It's a fact that he is the president of the U.S. But I don't know him. I'm not familiar with him. But I am familiar with, yo conozco a Jasmine, a Lily, a Jonathan. Do you see the difference there? Yo conozco a Lily Corcoran because I'm familiar with Jasmine, Lily, and Jonathan, right? Here we go, I'm familiar. I see them every Monday. So there's a difference between knowing and knowing someone. Here's another example. Yo sé cocinar. I know how to cook. It's a fact that I know how to cook. Yo sé hacer tacos. I know. I have the knowledge of knowing how to make tacos. Now, there's a difference between this and yo conozco muy bien la comida mexicana. I know Mexican cuisine very well. I know Mexican cuisine very well because I cook it almost every day. Because yesterday I made enchiladas. Or last week I made tacos. Let's look at another example. Yo sé llegar al aeropuerto de San Diego. I know how to get to San Diego's airport. Okay, that's also knowledge right there. A skill that I have. I know how to, well, not a skill, but knowledge. I know how to get to San Diego's airport because I have a GPS. And it shows me how to get there, so I know I can arrive. I know I can get there. But there's a difference between that and yo conozco el aeropuerto de Oklahoma City. I know the airport in Oklahoma City because I'm familiar with it. I actually have been there, but I am. Let's say that if I were to say, yo sé llegar al aeropuerto de Washington. I've never been there. I know how to get to the airport in Washington. But I don't know the airport in Washington. I've never been there. I'm not familiar with it. But I am with the Oklahoma City airport. Okay.